We're going to start with having the candidates introduce themselves. So please briefly introduce yourself. Tell us why you are running for council and what you believe that you can bring to the table. We're going to start each question with the mayoral candidates, and then we will move on to council.
Good evening, everybody, and thank you all for coming. I've been asked several times, or maybe many times over the last few weeks, why someone of my age would continue to advocate and work hard on behalf of our community. It's very simple. I moved here 41 years ago this month with my family. There are now 4 generations of the Pope family in Norman Wells. So while I'm looking after their best interests, I'm also here to look after everyone else's best interests. I'm here because I've got nothing better to do to work for you, to work with you, and because if I stayed home and retired, I'd be watching soap operas. I'm not up to that. I'd rather be in town hall or fighting for your best interests somewhere. I've still got a lot to offer. The body from the neck down is maybe not doing as well as the top end, but I feel pretty comfortable that I can give you all you need. We know that we're going through a perfect storm right now. None of it is of our making. We'll start off with calling it climate change and the effects of climate change which have hit our community. All I can tell you at this point is I'm dedicated to work for our community to the best of my ability, and I promise to do that, and I will accept any advice you wish to offer me along the way, and we sure do get a lot of advice, and I'm open to whatever you wish to tell me, ask me, or suggest to me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and thank you for hosting this event as well too. It's so important because it gives the community to get to know the individual at a different stage, and also as running for office and looking at their own political views and what is it that they want to improve and they want to enhance in your community. My name is Polly China. I'm originally from Fort Good Hope. I'm a member of the Gashagoten district. And I just finished my term as MLA and as Minister for the Northwest Territories and MLA for the Sahtu. And with that experience, I feel that I need to give back to the region. I've tried to run in 2 different elections besides this one, both at the Indigenous table. And it was one of my accomplishments that I wanted to take part in elections throughout the Northwest Territories to really understand the dynamic. Where are we as a Northwest Territories? How are we thinking? How are we actually going to be striving and moving forward? And looking at where we are now as within Canada and how are we working with the federal and with the Liberals right now, I think we did really well and excellent because the Indigenous governments were top and front and center. And I think that there is a need for partnership in our community. We need to partner with the Indigenous governments where we are administering in a Sahtu selected land claim area. And I think we need to recognize the opportunities that come with that. And looking at that and the successes surrounding Norman Wells, but also the impacts that we do have here, that we do call for partnership with SSI and with the local Indigenous governments. We are dealing with Imperial Oil, that there is a massive history amongst Indigenous people in a relationship that is there that I feel that could benefit the community. Also, we are entering into an era, into a time of where addiction is so massive that it's starting to really threaten the safety in our community. And I think those issues need to be addressed. And I would like to see initiatives of a homeless shelter established. I would like to see adequate programming to work with everybody within this community. I've heard issues from homelessness to addiction to mental health supports, also looking at domestic violence.
30 more seconds, Polly.
If there's anything happening in a community, where do we go? You know, the only domestic places here in the Northwest Territories are Yellowknife and Fort Smith. And I think what I have to offer to the region is that the connection that I do have, really looking at working with the Indigenous governments, but not only that, with the federal government as well too, understanding their structure, but also understanding as a municipality, it's an arm's length of the GNWT. Very similar to the way that Housing Northwest Territories operates as well too, so you're abided by legislation and policy, so it's limited. And there's also an association of communities that is available as well too.
Last thoughts?
What I would like to look at is unity. I think we need to be in alignment and we need to work together to see changes within our community. Masi.
Thank you.
For those that don't know me, my name is Bob Greek. I have been in Norman Wells for close to 17 years. I'm a homeowner here for over 11 of that. And when I started, I came up here to run Matco, which turned into Manitoulin. I did that for 7 years before going out and spending almost over 10 years on the Imperial Oil site running their warehouse out there. I understand, I ran for council and I was successful from 2009 to 2012. So I understand the commitment that this job has. This is not a part-time job that anybody wants to take for the money, that's for sure. If you're doing it right, you're spending time, you're spending effort, you're spending energy, and that's what I'm willing to do. I'm a family man. I'm married to a wonderful wife for 40 years. I have 3 grown children and 9 grandkids that I love to spoil the hell out of. Why am I running? Norman Wells is in crisis. Anybody that doesn't see that really isn't looking at reality. We're being affected by climate change, as Mayor Pope said. And we need to support and work with all levels of government, whether it's federal, provincial, or territorial, because we need that partnership. We need to prepare for a post-Imperial Oil existence and what that's going to look like in this town. Because regardless of what happens with the 490 decision, which unfortunately we haven't got a decision from Imperial yet, but there is an actual shutdown plan. When I first came here, everybody said to me, Imperial's going to be closing in 5 to 10 years. Well, 17 years later, I'm still hearing 5 to 10 years, but now there's a firm date. 2030 was the designated end of life. So one way or the other, that's a reality. It's the first time they've actually had a full-blown end of life plan. So, and honestly, with this fuel shortage thing, we need to start holding people responsible. People who are responsible need to be held responsible. And the government cannot continue to tax us at the same rate, whether it be federal or provincial or territorial, cannot continue to tax us at the same rate when we're paying, hopefully not, but anywhere between $5 and $6 for home heating fuel.
Last few thoughts.
Most importantly, I care about this community and its people.
Awesome.
Hi everyone, I'm Alexis Peachy. I'm running for council for a 3rd term because I see the crisis we're in and hope to be part of the group that works to a solution with the ideas of new people at the table as well as feedback from the public. I'm looking forward to more opportunities for interagency collaboration. I feel Norman Wells has gone away from actually getting together with organizations that do the exact same thing when it comes to wellness and programs and supporting each other, be it resources, capacity, and even consistency in keeping those programs actually happening instead of one-offs. We are in a crisis regarding food costs, fuel costs, supply chains, and after working for SRP for the last 20 plus years, I do have a lot of knowledge on how supply chains work, and I think bringing that to the table is a huge strength of mine. And I just look forward to hearing back from residents and sitting down and talking about different solutions, different ideas of where we can go from here and how we can get support to help us at this time. Thank you.
Trevor Smith is under the weather and has provided some remarks that he would like to say, so Josh is going to read those out.
All right, good evening. My name is Trevor Smith. First and foremost, I'd like to welcome everyone who took the time to attend this evening and say thanks and good luck to my fellow candidates who put their names forward. I moved to Norman Wells roughly 12 years ago and currently work for the GNWT as the Regional Airport Manager for the Sawtooth region. I've represented the town of Norman Wells the past 6 years as councillor and would like to continue representing the people. Currently, with our drought conditions causing the historic low water levels, canceling our summer barge resupply, and recent decision from SSI to send Imperial Oil Pipeline project to full environmental assessment, our town is facing major economic uncertainty. The cost of living, fuel and food prices soaring due to all products being flown in are reaching unimaginable levels. The past council has been advocating both territorial and federal governments for assistance, and if re-elected, would continue this advocating to demand both these levels of government help with this economic crisis. Although town council cannot have any direct effect on the SSI decision, past council have been regularly meeting with Imperial Oil, receiving any updates that the community can forward at this time. If Imperial Oil must make the unthinkable decision to close its Norman Wells operations in 2026, if re-elected to council, together we must do what's best for our residents and continue working to make Norman Wells a choice community to live and raise a family. Personally, I would like to continue serving the residents of Norman Wells and continue working on projects such as the Rick Myers Park and Arts and Culture Center, to name a couple. I feel with my previous experience on council and professional relationships built through council and the GNWT, I have the required skills to lead us through the next 3 years. I'm sorry I could not make it to this evening due to illness, but if anyone would like to reach me with any concerns, please email me, smith_counselor@normanwells.com. Thanks again to everyone for attending, and I encourage you to vote on Election Day. Thank you.
How do you plan to ensure transparency in municipal operations, and what mechanisms are in place to hold leadership accountable? Or what mechanisms would you like there to be in place to hold leadership accountable?
As far as my leadership style goes, I'm very low-key. As most people may know, the mayor has no more power for decision-making than his fellow council members. The council makes decisions. The mayor does not. He is just one of 7 people sitting at that table. The mayor chairs the meetings, and that's as much authority as the mayor will have. I like to allow my council members first opportunity to debate any item on the agenda. I never talk first. I let them do the talking, and where I can jump in and help clarify some of what we're doing or call questions on some of what we're doing, that's my style. I will work with the council and let them take the lead, and I will work with them to make sure we come up with the proper decision for our community. Sometimes we don't come to a consensus decision because we maybe don't have all the facts in front of us. So quite often we'll table an item, send it back to staff for more information, so when we make the decision, we make the proper decision based on what we know and what is before us. The other thing is we talk about regional cooperation. I was very proud of the meeting we set up this spring with the municipal governments of the Sahtu communities. We called it the Sahtu Summit, where we sat together. 4 of the communities were here, and we worked very closely. We questioned big time. One of the big issues was health care. Now, we have no say in what we do as a council in health care, but we can advocate with the health professionals that they do their job to the best of their ability on behalf of our residents. This is one of the things that we worry about. There are maybe a lot of people out there who we are not familiar with. We have a lot of new people coming to work in our community for the government, healthcare, other departments, but we never introduce them to the community. They're strangers in our town at times.
30 seconds.
So one of the things I want to do as a leader, should I be re-elected, is when any department or any government or any agency brings new people to town, bring them to the town council, introduce them, and we'll make sure the community know who they are. So that they're not just looking at strangers in the street, but they're looking at people on the street who they know what they're there for, what their role in this community is, and how they may be able to assist them.
10 seconds.
It's not often I get to talk this much. No, I'm just saying that the style of government here is we've got to work cooperatively together. I think we've got to reach out even further for partnerships. We are going to have to reach out to the Norman Wells Land Corporation, the Renewable Resources Council, all the different agencies in town who maybe we have not had a good working relationship previously. We've got to build these relationships up because this town is in trouble, but working together, we can alleviate a lot of these problems, but it's got to be a team effort.
Thank you,
There
Frank.
cannot be other people there off on the side. They've all got to be front and center. Thank you.
Just looking at what I've observed so far is that living in the community for quite a number of years, prior to my election, I was working with the GNWT for 20 years, and just being involved in different levels of government, being involved in different meeting sets as well too. What I feel this community really needs is unity. I think it really needs partnership. I think there's a lot of areas where we can see improvement, from childcare to addiction to infrastructure to let's build finally that Mackenzie Valley Highway and enough of environmental assessments. And I think for us to be really directly involved within the region, we need to have a respectful relationship with Sawtooth Secretariat. We need to be partners with them side by side with the Norman Wells Land Corporation. And we need to realize that we have different leadership in one community, but we all support everybody. We're all going to the same events. We are all celebrating whatever accomplishments are out there. We are all gathering when there's emergencies. It does not divide us. And with this position, what I want to bring forward is that unity, bringing everyone together. But then looking at the leadership style that I have is I'm looking for a team. I want an effective team. Even though you're sitting there as a mayor, you are the spokesperson of the council, but then yet, one thing I really enjoy are the debates. If you're not debating, you're not working. If you're not disagreeing, you're not working. If the public is not reaching out, and if there's no complaints, then there needs to be something being said out there for us to meet with everybody face to face. One of the things that I would like to do if I was elected as mayor is I would like to have more community events such as this. I would like to hear from the individuals. I would like to hear from the newcomers that have come to the community that are struggling with housing and childcare and whatever needs that we do have, and also looking at our cost of living as well here. I have a lot of comments for that, a lot of questions for the GNWT, a lot of questions for Imperial Oil, and also for our governance. Does our governance structure actually work? Are we able to get the answers that we need? But at the end of it, it's about the people. It's about the people and what the people expect. The seat is for 3 years, and I would like to work with the community, come up with a community-based plan.
30 seconds.
Give us that accountability. What is it that you want us to complete within that time? And also bring forward our issues and our focus, and collaborate, bring that together, narrow it down, and at least complete 3 of those items on that list. So my leadership, the accountability is about the people, building partnership, working in unity. Masi.
So leadership and transparency, I find being sitting at the council table, hearing the different views of all the individual councilors that sit there. They come from different backgrounds, different views, represent different demographics within the community. And I think coming to the table with an open mind to listen to the different views, the different ideas, even if they don't agree with what I think, having that open mind to understand where they're coming from, is huge when it comes to sitting at the council table. Transparency, knowing exactly what you're saying at the council table is exactly what you're saying outside to the public. And bringing yourself to the public when they ask you questions, I think is very important. Not to change who you are, just to, make people happy, is one of my personal things, making sure people know exactly who I am at any time, anywhere I am. I also think it's hard work. There is a lot of work that goes into as being a counselor, knowing and educating yourself on the different topics that come up. You get your package of what you're going to be talking about, and it's up to you to go and ask questions and, go and find somebody who might know the answer for specific topics.
30 seconds.
Yeah, I heard you. And bring that to the table and know that I do not make, any actual promises except for to be hardworking and do my best for you at the table. Thank you.
So transparency. Transparency, I think there is transparency. I agree the minutes could be a little more detailed, but ultimately everyone has both the right and the responsibility to be informed as to what is happening within our town. We have a good website. We have Facebook. If you really care, you will know what's going on in this town. Mechanisms for accountability, ultimately this is the biggest one. It's called an election. If you're not seeing accountability, change the politicians. I was in the South America, and my bus driver had a great little line. He said, politicians are like children's diapers. They need to be changed often and for the same reason. Honestly, accountability, it just comes down to us being forthcoming with information. And as Alexis said, what you say in this forum is exactly what you're saying out on the street. Thank you.
It would be irresponsible not to talk about this topic tonight because it's at the top of everyone's mind these days. But the cost of fuel, both heating and automotive fuel, has skyrocketed in this month, or in the last month, or will do so soon. Do you believe that this is a cost that the residents can incur? / how do you aim to help fix this situation as mayor and council? Paulicina.
So much for the question. Of course, right away, I think about the skyrocket of the fuel, of how you've said it, is that I've never seen in the Northwest Territories where something has drastically increased. This wasn't over four months, it wasn't over 2 years, it wasn't over 10, this is weeks, basically. And I question the emergency that we did have here in the Sawtoo. I question this, like I don't have an answer, but if I were elected, I want to question the GWT and ask them, when we had the emergency and the evacuation here in the community, was our fuel here used for the flights? Did we did we offset those costs where we were where we schedule fuel to last us for the year? And with the evacuation, was that fuel used at that time? And are we incurring those costs in such a short amount of time where we're supposed to be going back to regular per liter by December, January? And also the cost of living, I question that with the amount of groceries that we did have with both stores, that were all the groceries utilized at that time? And I think that the GNWT should be upfronting a subsidy to Norman Wells. And looking at that emergency, it gives me a comparison of what happened in Hetladeci. It gives me a comparison of what happened in Enterprise. And looking at what it cost those communities to be rebuilt. And did that happen here? And I can't answer that question, but it's a question as mayor that I would be bringing forward to the GNWT and looking at. I'm very curious. When the fires happened in Fort Good Hope, were they fueling up here with our fuel here? And and just used up our supply that we got over the winter, the winter road.
30 seconds.
Thank you.
Mayor Frank? With these fuel prices that we're observing currently, do you believe that this is a cost that residents can incur? / how do you aim to fix this situation as mayor and council?
The simple answer to that is no. No one should have to put up with these prices. They are totally ridiculous. I used to complain at $1,000 a month to heat my house. I'll be very honest right now, if the prices go up to what's being projected, I will not be able to fill my tank in November. What do we do from there? We don't know. This is way, way more serious than a lot of people seem to be making it. This is a tragedy in the making for our community. If we can't heat our homes, feed our children, feed our families, what are we going to do? I am off with Danny McNeely next week to meet with the federal government, and I'm going to ask them, because of the ownership in the Norman Wells oil field, to cover every cost for every charter that came in here or is coming in here with aviation fuel, diesel fuel, heating fuel, and gasoline. Every damn cent that's been charged on these charters, I want them to reimburse in one way or the other. I am not going to put up with any other answer than that, because they have made money over the years out of the oil field here, billions to the federal government in royalties, taxes, and in revenues. So to me, this is their time to come to the table and look after Norman Wells. I think it's up to the GNWT to worry about the cost of groceries and that type of stuff. The big ticket item is the cost of liquid fuels coming to our community right now, and I am going to be demanding, along with Danny McNeely, our MLA, that these are covered by the federal government, and right now. And then from that discussion, we go right into what's the future going to hold for us if there's no water in the Mackenzie River. So we'd better sit down, get a commitment to cover these costs for now, for this summer, and then sit down with us now and get proactive rather than reactive with a plan going forward for how many more years we may have to endure these costs. We cannot endure them, we will not endure them, and this is where the fight starts. Thank you.
Bob Greek?
This one's a tough one, because we have several factors in play here. First of all, Imperial Oil is a creature with two heads. There's the upstream division. That's the faces you see in your community. That's Tony, that's Jess, that's the people who are here. The other head is Esso. That is the people who sell us our fuel. That is the people that are actually the ones who set prices. Now, they're setting the prices based on the fact they have to fly it in. Well, my boss is kind of a smart guy, and he says there's 6 P's that you have to watch. Preparation and planning prevent piss-poor performance. Guess what Esso gets a mark of? Piss-poor performance, because they didn't recognize the fact, even though Imperial Oil upstream recognized the fact there was going to be a shortage in fuel, there was going to be a shortage in a very high potential there wouldn't be barges. So it's not just the government. I hate the fact the government's going to make more taxes on us because our fuel bills are crazy, but I'm also a little upset that that Esso, not this bunch, but downstream, is going to make more money because you know they're taking their profit margin. So there's accountability that has to be held here, and it is on multiple levels, not just government levels. And we all need to work together to make sure those accountable are taking responsibility. Thank you.
Alexis?
Yeah, can you repeat the question?
The soaring cost of fuel, do you believe this is a cost that Norman Wells can incur? And if not, how do you plan to work with council to, mend the situation?
So this is a cost that nobody can handle. People struggled already last year. with heating prices due to, outside influences because fuel prices are based off of national rack pricing. So the war in Ukraine, now you have the war in Middle East, whatever's going on there. And then now we have a climate change crisis, low water, fuel didn't come in. No one can afford the fuel pricing costs that are projected. Advocacy is the only thing at this time I can think of what to do. Advocacy to the federal government for sure, advocacy to the territorial government. It's, the only way I see out of this is somebody in a higher level of government paying for the transportation costs of this fuel. And it shouldn't be the individual residents in Norman Wells paying for it. Thank you.
Our next topic is the Mackenzie Valley Highway. With the recent SSI decision and the real possibility of Imperial pulling out sooner than expected, do you believe that the Mackenzie Valley Highway will ever get constructed? And if so, how do you plan to advocate for it? We'll start with Mayor. Who did we start with last time? Polly. So we'll start with Frank.
I don't think we can survive without this highway. There's no guarantee that this river will be navigable in the very near future. We've got to get after our governments, our landowners, everybody, to get this highway built as quickly as is at all possible. We need it. We can't rely on barges. We can't rely on the winter road. The whole problem is created by climate change. Remember in 2019 when the winter road closed halfway through the season and people were stranded down south because they couldn't drive their 4x4s up the river or let alone trucks and freight cargo? Nothing. We were stopped. What if we get another a warm winter and we can't travel that winter road? There's supposed to be at least 1,000 truckloads of material on that road this winter. Half of that at least will be fuel, gasoline, aviation fuel. What if that doesn't get in here? We're back to Buffalo. We're back to air freight. We can't, as a community, as a region, put up with this any longer. I know they have the environmental assessment that they've called for Imperial Oil. There's the environmental assessment on the Mackenzie Highway right now. It's been going on for 3 or 4 years. They still don't have a decision made.
30
and they're
seconds.
still projecting that to come out maybe middle of next summer. They'll never get this highway built in my lifetime, that's for damn sure, and I'm not sure it will be built in your lifetimes, a lot of you, because this is just dragging on and on. We had a highway committed from Simpson to Inuvik in 1970. The center line was cut from Simpson to Inuvik in 1972-73. And politics got in the way. We don't want a highway. We don't want this. We don't want that. So they got nothing.
10 seconds.
Now they want it. But are we a little bit too late? We should have had a super highway between Simpson and Inuvik right now. Politics got in the way of it. We can't let politics get in the way of it anymore. This is another thing I'll be advocating for with Danny next week.
Thank you, Mayor. Would you like me to repeat it?
No, I'm just good now?
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you so much for the question. And this is a difficult one when we're talking about the Mackenzie Valley Highway, and this is where the settled land claim area really affects us in any infrastructure projects and anything going forward. There is a section that the GNWT is obligated to pursue consultation. So when we do have these projects coming forward, the Indigenous governments have to be in alignment and we have to be all thinking the same, we have to be all approving the same. We can't be one without the other. And this is where it's so important that we need to repair our relationships with the Indigenous governments respectfully. And I think at the end of the day that we need to remember that the history here in Nassau too, in 2015 we had the Bear River Bridge project that was ready to go. And overnight, politics took that Bear River Bridge, and it's now been built in Kikiza. That's how fast decisions can be made, and that's how quickly projects can be delayed. And that's where I would be able to come in to really try to work with everybody coming together. And I know the trips to Ottawa sound impressive and meeting with the federal ministers and so on and whatever. But what I feel as a municipality and as a mayor, you need to be in alignment with the ministers. The ministers were just recently here. ECC was just here. I don't know what happened with that conversation going forward because they have the direct relationships to meet with the federal government, and with SSI to meet with the federal government. I would want to be in partnership and traveling with them side by side, because if there's any money that's going to be coming here to the Sawtooth to build that highway, it's either going to go to the GNWT or the Indigenous governments. You'll never see a municipality end up with $300 million to build an infrastructure project. Because you're a government arm,
30
you're
seconds.
under the legislation and you're under the policies of the GNWT. So I can see that this project is going to be really contentious, and there's other factors of it as well too that really concern me. Is, are we going to have to change the alignment in the years to come? We need to get that highway built, and the only say we have right now is in between Norman Wells and Toledo. And we need to be in alignment with the DHO. This is why Indigenous partnership is so important. I see it done in Yellowknife. Yellowknife works directly with YKDFN. I see it in the Clecho.
10 seconds.
And we need to have the same approach here in the Sawtooth. Masi.
Let's start with Bob.
So this is a topic that, being in logistics, I've been dealing with since I came here. First of all, I think it's going to be named the Cease McCauley Memorial Highway, since she's the one that advocated from the minute I came into this community. But this road has several big blocks, landmines, but the biggest one being, if you want to have a highway, you want to have that, you need to have industry. And if we lose our industry in Norman Wells and in the Sawtooth, then why are we going to build a highway? What's the tax base going to be to keep it going? Highways aren't built on good looks and charm, they're built on money. And without that, and without industry to support it, it's a doomed project. And I hate to say that, but I think that's reality. Thank you.
Alexis.
Can you repeat the question, please?
Yes. Do you believe that the Mackenzie Valley Highway, will ever get constructed? And if so, how do you plan to advocate for it?
I am concerned if there is a future for the Mackenzie Valley Highway to be built. We desperately need it as a region, as a community. With the low water, I can see the road becoming more and more important to bring in goods to this community and supplies that don't cost a fortune, to continue having people live here, stay here. But with all things, Bob is right. Industry does drive a lot of the factors. Tax base in Norman Wells, as the only tax-based community in the Sawtooth, Imperial Oil is a huge contributor to that. And if they close their doors, shut down their houses, we are losing probably everything that we use right now to provide infrastructure and services to the town within our municipal bounds. So all I can say is I promise to advocate, try our best to work with partners, Indigenous governments within the region. The territorial government has been reached out to and have been spoken. We've had meetings with them, and that's all we can do and hope for, and that it actually comes to I can't even speak anymore, come to be. Thanks.
Awesome. Okay, next topic is daycare. Norman Wells has long suffered from a lack of childcare, which impacts our workforce by forcing parents to stay home to take care of their kids. Do you support the current daycare efforts, or do you have another suggestion for childcare?
No, I absolutely support the current daycare efforts. It's been extraordinary. I want to say it's probably one of the most successful approaches throughout the Northwest Territories that I did support as well as MLA and as minister. And sitting at the table and actually looking at what Norman Wells was providing was very impressive. The only thing that holds them back is land development in a site. And I think as that going forward and getting that information, we just need to move forward on it. But that's the latest information I got on it, was that we weren't able to locate a site, and that was holding them up. But I think with the plan that they did have, it was something extraordinary, to be honest. And I think as a community, if there is some issues that the GNWT is withholding government funding or whatever like that, I think this would be something to really push forward, because this is probably the only region throughout the Northwest Territories that does not have a daycare facility. Thank you.
Mayor Frank?
Thank you. There is no doubt whatsoever we do need a daycare. Council of the day of the last 2 councils, I believe, have worked as hard as we can with this very hard-working daycare society. We have tried to find lots within our community which we could donate to the society to allow them to build the facility they want to build. Our staff have worked diligently with their architect to work with them as they came up with plans for what kind of building they wanted. Our staff have also worked hard with who we assumed was going to be the contractor to do the work on the projected building. And we've worked with them as hard as we could. We understand that quite a bit of funding has been found already, whether it's through loans, through Jordan's Principle, and through other means of federal, territorial, and also local fundraising efforts. I understand there may still be an outfall of $2 million still required for this facility. I'm just wondering whether they wanted to consider, should we in fact go ahead with our cultural centre, if we could have one of the wings in that cultural centre become the daycare rather than have a separate building. There's a lot of thoughts out there. I am quite convinced that as soon as the new community the new council is elected by the community, this will be very high on the priority list of our council to meet with the society and try and help them bring this to a conclusion on behalf of all of us.
Alexis?
I support a daycare in Norman Wells. I think it's greatly needed. We have single parents unable to work, or if they do work, they're working just to pay for daycare. And it's not a way to live. Most people do live paycheck to paycheck in Norman Wells, and to give 30% away when you're already struggling it doesn't work. As Frank said, the current council has, sat and talked to the daycare society and supported them in all their endeavors, and I hope to continue supporting them in any way we can as a town council. It's very important that our children have a safe place to go, and parents can feel comfortable leaving their children at a daycare that provides such a great service. Thank you.
And Bob?
So yeah, this has been an issue since I came to town here in 2008. In 2009 through 12, we actually had a daycare. Every time I drive by that building, it breaks my heart a little bit, because we had a lot, we had a daycare, we had a board that was running it, but unfortunately, economics gets in the way. It was going to be a point where, can the parent afford the daycare? Is a daycare more expensive than going to work? And that's an unfortunate reality. Yes, we need a daycare, and I think as a town, we can do everything we can to work with the daycare society, but obviously we can't run a daycare. That's not within our town purview. But it's our responsibility to make it as easy as possible for them to get something up and running, and help in that regard. Thank you.
Excellent. Our next topic is Imperial Oil and the SSI decision. considering the possibility of Imperial leaving Norman Wells earlier than anticipated, especially with the most recent SSI decision, what are your short-term and long-term visions for this community's economic stability and development? We will start with Mayor Frank.
Thank you. I think we've been hearing since about 1990, and my remembrance is that Imperial Oil have said, we've got a few more years of life here, maybe 5, maybe 10 more years. Then every 5 more years, they give you another 5 years, or maybe another 10 years. I think we've reached the end of that state now. I think we're at a stage right now where the decision to go to environmental assessment for that small repair job on the islands has driven a stake into the heart of Norman Wells. This could be enough to end our community if Imperial Oil pull out. We have needed them in this town. They've been here over 100 years. They've been a good corporate citizen to the most part, as far as I'm concerned. They contribute many millions of dollars in taxes to our community. Enbridge Pipelines contribute many hundreds of thousands of dollars in taxes to our community. We'll lose that. We'll lose an awful lot of the money we need to run our community. We need them to stay. We've got to find a way to get past this. It is in their hands right now as a company whether they will walk away and say, we're out of here in 2 years, or will they stay, face the environmental assessment, and hope it doesn't take as many years as the assessment on the highway is taking.
30
I
seconds.
don't think there is any way to short-circuit the environmental assessment. I'm really worried that they may just say we can't get into another assessment, we're going to walk. I hope that's not what's going to happen, and it is in their ballpark right now, but we need them to come to the table quickly and tell us what they're going to do. Don't leave us hanging. Thank you.
Paula China.
Thank you so much for the question, and I think the environmental assessment has caused a lot of discomfort throughout the region, but I haven't heard Imperial Oil respond, to be honest. I haven't seen anything out there to say, this is what we're going to do, this is our plan. Are we actually going on assumption? Do we actually know that this is what they're going to be doing? I haven't seen anything like that. And also, I think this is where our relationship with the Indigenous government needs to happen. If the Indigenous government is saying, we're going to go into your district, we're going to go into your area, and we're going to request an environmental assessment on the operation, operating in a municipality, we should have been a part of that discussion. We should have been able to meet face-to-face to say, this is what's going on, this is what we're going to propose, do you agree, yes or no? And Norman Wells should have had respectfully the opportunity to have that conversation with them. But as of right now, I haven't seen a response from Imperial Oil. I haven't seen them cause any uncertainty in the community right now. And I think up until that environmental assessment is distributed, I think there needs to be a conversation as well with the Sawtooth Land and Water Board and the Mackenzie Valley as well. And what are their stages like? What are the timelines like? And what possibility are we looking at? And the meeting needs to happen between SSI, Norman Wells, and Imperial Oil for us to have certainty and for us to be preparing for them. Masi.
Thank you. We'll start with Alexis.
The decision for SSI to send Imperial to a EA was a little bit of a shock for me. I do feel that more conversation should have happened between SSI and the town of Norman Wells before that decision was made. But it is SSI who represents their beneficiaries of the Sawtooth Dene Métis land claim. And I assume that they have gotten all the information they required to make the decision that they made. Looking at the votes, obviously 2 voted no, 1 didn't make a vote, and 4 did. And so you have to assume that they made their decision based off facts given to them from all of the 7 land corps. Am I worried About what will happen
30
with this
seconds.
decision, I'm very, very worried. But yes, without having any public statement from Imperial about what their actual plans are, all we can do is assume and make plans based off of A, B, C, and D outcomes. That's what we as a town council have to do, is look at all the different outcomes that may have, that may come, and try to find solutions for those different types of outcomes. Thank you.
So having a perspective of being out on the lease, believe me, those of us out there, we're as much in the dark as everybody in this community. Our leadership has been in meetings, and this has gone well above local level. This is now Calgary, Houston. So the reason we haven't got an answer is they are still crunching numbers. And believe me when I say, it's about numbers. The reason for the line 490 is 1/3 of our oil production is on Bear Island, and that's where that line services. Without that line, this facility is breaking even. And with a realistic end of life at 2030, if they can't be in production for the last 5 years of life, they can't pay the $50 million to put the line under the river. Just that simple. So realistically, they don't have a whole lot of choices because, again, it's not about community advocacy. It's about dollars and cents when you get down to that level with a big company. So long term, and even short term. One, there will be decommissioning and abandonment. That's going to keep us going for a few years. After that will be reclamation. But bottom line is, once they stop producing oil, our biggest taxpayer goes from a status of a working oil field to being an industrial dump for all intents and purposes. So we need to have good plans. And realistically, we have 906 billion barrels of oil sitting across the river, 60% recoverable. If I had to have a long-term plan, I'd say let's get that working rather than digging dirt out of the ground in Alberta.
30 seconds.
So we need to have active plans. We've talked, I was on the ECDEV committee, and we've tried to deal with industry, and every industry runs into the exact same problems. One, logistics. Two, regulatory. So that's basically where we are. And until we cross those bridges, that's where we're going to be. Thank you.
Okay, this is our last question, and then we can open it up to the public attendees. Who did we start with last time? Was it Frank? We'll start with Polly? Okay. Well, we're going to start with you, Polly. The residents of Norman Wells will be relying on you through these difficult times. What do you believe you can bring to the table as a mayor or councillor that will help ease the pain through the coming years?
Thank you so much for the question. And I think right now what we're experiencing is so much uncertainty. There's so much conversation about the cost of living and the increase of fuel and the uncertainty of Imperial Oil. And coming forward, and what I would like to do to support the community is looking at our advocacy on where we stand as a community. How is this going to actually affect us in the next 3 years? The seat is only 3 years. What can we accomplish within that amount of time? I would like to see emergency plans, community plans, environmental plans going forward, so at least we're structured into the coming years, that within this government, if we're able to put documents together to say this is what we're going to be accomplishing in year 1, year 2, year 3, then that document just doesn't die. And I think it would actually come with funding with it as well. But it's really hard to speak on behalf of Imperial Oil when we don't even know what it is that they're proposing. We don't even know what it is that we could be pursuing in the future. I think those conversations, those relationships are so important right now. We've seen this in Yellowknife as well too with DIVEC. We've seen it with BHP. We've seen it where industry has said, you know, we're out, we're leaving the north, and this is what's going to happen. The same panic happens throughout the Northwest Territories. And I think planning for those what ifs, but then I think we need to have those conversations, because right now we're just guessing. And I think right now, when we're talking about our fuel shortage, I want to hold the government accountable, and I honestly, strongly believe that our fuel supply was used for the evacuation. Our groceries
30
that were
seconds.
given to us for the rest of the season, up until the winter road, was used for the evacuation. And I think the GNWT needs to recognize that and give us back the subsidy that is required to us. And with their fly-in flights coming in, their barges with Buffalo, they need to come in with their own fuel supply and not take the fuel supply out of Norman Wells. Thank you.
Mayor Frank, would you like me to repeat the question?
Yeah, please.
The residents of Norman Wells will be relying on you through these difficult times. What do you believe that you can bring to the table as a councillor or mayor that will help ease the pain through the coming years?
What I will bring to the table is hard work and dedication for my community. We will work as a community through our town council, with all members of this council working together for the benefit of all of us. We've got to find a way to overcome these costs. The other thing that we have not even reached on today is if line repair for Imperial Oil does not take place, and they do not have natural gas to feed the turbines for our power generation, we'll be going on diesel generation for the power. Guess what that means? The power corporation is going to say, hey, we need to make more money off of you guys. We're going to raise the price of power next. We are in one hell of a situation right now. And all I can tell you is that from my point of view, I will not slack off in my efforts to overcome these hurdles. They are almost insurmountable at this time, but we cannot endure them. This town is in a crisis situation, and all I can do is say, I am here for you, want to hear from you. I'm here for you and I want to hear from you. You got that one? And I am going to work very hard, very diligently, in any way I can, whether it's to finish my term on this council. If you trust me with the term on the next council, I'll be here for you, and that's all I can offer is hard work and effort on your behalf. Thank you.
Bob, we'll start with you.
Thank you. So, the only thing I can really bring to the table, honestly, is logistics expertise. It's what I've been doing almost my entire career. I want to continue using, or I want to use that expertise to help the town to try to get around some of the issues we're having. You know, I like to reference back to the tale of two airlines. We have Canadian North, who took away our baggage allowance, put up their rates, and then we have Buffalo. One of the biggest rumors in this town was that Buffalo Airways was being subsidized by the government to bring in air barge shipments for the community. No, not one penny. There's not one penny of government money coming into that, into the air barges. There's not one penny of government money coming into these fuel charters. Everything is their own, you know, the government is not paying a penny. And I get upset when I think about Canadian North actually taking away our benefits and raising the rates. So all of these things, logistics-wise, we need to work on that. We have good trucking companies. They just need the ability to get up the road. And again, winter, as Frank said, our seasons are getting shorter. I have a picture on my phone, March 16.
30 seconds.
Thank you. A picture on my phone from March 16, a few years ago, when it was 10 degrees here in Norman Wells, and our road literally closed the next day. That was 2 weeks of winter road we'd have lost. We can't afford that again. So I think we need to work as a group, and to ease the pain, the best way I can do it is to help find the most cost-effective ways to get things into this town. Thank you.
If I am re-elected, I would like to continue our We've already put plans in place for emergencies, for community plans. I'm just trying, my words are all jumbled. I do think we need to go a little bit further. I think there should be, the town should invest in a generator that can run the water treatment plant. If there's a power outage, I think there should be a couple extra generators in town to run a warming facility plus communication to the outside world in case something happens when it's minus 40 out. I also think there's a dual purpose for those generators. They can run our own town purchase sprinklers so that we're protected if there's wildfire disaster close by. So these are things that I think need to be discussed. The next 3 years and longer. I think plans need to be put in place for 1 year, 3 year, 5, 10, so that we're leaving a roadmap that not necessarily will be completely followed by the next council, but they don't have to start at step one. There's already some groundwork done for them. And as I said before, I'm open to hear anybody's opinion. Communicate with anybody. I like learning new opinions, new ideas. All criticism is welcome as well,
30
but
seconds.
also bring something constructive to the solution is even better. So yeah, that's it.
Thank you so much. We will now be taking questions from the public. If you'd like to come and ask a question, please step up to the mic, and we can continue with that. We will continue with the time limits, just to kind of keep things moving.
Hi, Roger. Oop, not me. I'm here. Hello. Okay. Roderick Young. I am interested in how you would, as a city council or as mayor, support businesses in town. If we're trying to replace, to some extent, the tax base of Imperial Oil, how would you support businesses that are up and coming, established businesses?
That's a tough one, thank you. I think we would have to take a serious look at what kind of new businesses we would like to see in the town. What are we going to need? How can we support them? I've also wondered if tax breaks could be useful, finding good places, properties, land development. I don't think we're going to allow Norman Wells to shut down if Imperial Oil leave. We have got to start working proactively. We can't always react to situations. We've got to be prepared, be proactive, and start working collectively, putting our brains together. Could we end up putting in agriculture into this community? Vegetables. Doug Whiteman ran one hell of a good vegetable garden at one time.
30 seconds.
Tons of potatoes were coming out. Beautiful stuff, carrots. So maybe we're going to have to take a look at vegetable marketing. I'm working with a company right now in Yellowknife who produce pork, who produce meat, who produce vegetables very cheaply. I'm working with them right now to see if they would come in and open an establishment here. They have opened one in Betchico. It is very successful. They recently donated 200 pounds of pork
10
to our
seconds.
food bank. So I'm hoping to bring them in and work with them to see if they can help us with some agricultural projects. I'm not sure if that's what you wanted or what the question was, but the answer's all I got for you. Thank you.
Yeah, Polly.
Thank you so much for the question, and yes, absolutely, I'm very much in support of businesses. Businesses contribute to homelessness, it contributes to skill building, it contributes to a lot of resources that don't exist here in the community. And I think that with this approach, I would like to work with the GNWT in looking at what types of funding is actually out there. You could even, I'm trying to think at the top of my head, arts and crafts is one thing. You could be looking at that. It doesn't have to be a huge, big, multi-million dollar or whatever. It could be something that is so simple, but we could have residents in our community that is actually wanting to get into business, but this does not have the resources to get this done. And this is really important to me as well too, because the other thing is we have Aurora College here. We have Aurora College that's here, and you know, can we get creative in looking at offering certificate business courses? Can we look at offering bookkeeping in order for these businesses to be thriving, for them to be educated in their own, and to be establishing what it is that we need here? What I've often heard about was a food truck. As simple as that. How do you get that going?
30 seconds.
You know, and I think that if we offer that support within the municipality, then let's look at a pilot project. What is it that we can actually pursue? And what is the interest of the people at the ground level? And once again, it could be as simple as hauling wood. How many of us actually have wood stoves that need wood on an annual basis? And that's where those community plans really come in very handy. Masi.
Would any of the councilors like to answer?
Yeah, I would like to answer. I think supporting business is extremely important. The town, with its bylaws and procedures, can look at the current bylaws and take away barriers that may cause businesses not to establish themselves, or put in that have been put in place that don't allow business more freedom to be able to establish themselves. But I also think the town has the ability to provide resources, or to know what funding is available. It may not work, you know, we're always as a town looking for funding to help do programs and stuff for our residents. And in that work, there, you know, staff is always coming across funding that works for businesses and can't work for government. So if there's a resource where the town can put it out and say this is available to business, to people looking to be in business, is, you know, and be there to give that knowledge out,
30 seconds.
I think would be a great thing as well. So supporting business is very important. Thank you.
I'll comment on that one as well. So business development is always something that is very important. Biggest thing we can do, get down the cost of doing business. Realistically, that's our biggest roadblock. If you're going to have brick and mortar, you're going to have costs. You're going to have heating costs. You're going to have all of the costs involved. If we can get those down, businesses can thrive. I look at Mr. Young Josh Earls up here, who has been a very successful businessman in this town, and he's done so through a lot of hard work, but knowing how not to get too big, but being big enough. So I look at that, I look at Mr. Young, Drayton Walker, with his going forward with his small business. We encourage those types of things, and we want those businesses to flourish and encourage more of them.
Good evening. Thank you all so very much for speaking to us tonight. I know it can't be easy. Not to beat a dead horse, but you know, hearing the plans for a year from now, 3 years from now, long-term plans, honestly, I'm scared how I'm going to get through the next 3 months. If I have one heating bill that costs me $5,000, I can't pay my mortgage. I'm done. You know, this is where I plan to retire. I honestly, I won't even have enough money to get out of here. So, and I make pretty good money, and there's a lot of people that don't. So, I know you've spoken to some ideas, but I mean, are we looking at calling a state of emergency? And I don't know what, if that will help. But I truly, I can't even look at a 3-year plan right now. I can't see past the next 3 months because I don't know if I'm going to make it. So is there anything you can do to make me feel better about that? It's a tough question, and I don't know how you can answer that, but I truly am sick to my stomach over it, and yeah. if there's anything you can say to help us feel better, that would be great.
Thank you. I think you have just brought to the floor what everybody else in this room would have liked to said. They're all feeling the same way. I feel the same way. I can't answer your question on what we can do to make it any easier, except to persevere and fight hard with my MLA, try and get at least the cost to fly that material in taken off the table. That is what I'm aiming to do right now, and if we can do that, it'll be good. I should have answers for you. One of the other things that we've talked about is the cost of groceries. We went to Yellowknife 3 weeks ago, Danny, myself, and we talked with the Premier and the Cabinet. And we at that time emphasized the cost of food, the cost of groceries. We did not even have an inclination that gasoline, heating fuel, and everything else was going to go up. We did know about the aviation fuel going up, but that was just another blip in the horizon. I have been told, but can't confirm it, that the GNWT will in fact be putting out something next week and some sort of a relief of some sort for the cost of groceries for our community. Whether it's for everybody in the community, whether it's for I have no idea what it's about, but I would say stand by and hopefully there'll be something positive, at least for the cost of living for the groceries, which is what our first fight was about. We have now got new fights on our hand, and that is the heating fuel especially. And we're on that one, and hopefully I can get some results on that one for you. But thank you for the question. I think everybody else in this room and in this community would have asked the very same question. We are worried. I can't pay mine if it comes to these prices. I don't think anybody else can. But thank you for raising it.
Would any other candidates like to comment? Sure. Yeah, you're up.
I wasn't sure who was going first, if you're going up and down the line. This is such a, I feel for you as well too. I could hear the pain and the uncertainty and the fear in your voice as well. And, we're all feeling like that. And I think right now, we haven't heard a response from the GNWT. We haven't heard a response from Imperial Oil. And we're just filled with assumption. We haven't heard from them at all. This is just something that is floating around. We're giving it so much attention. And I'm speaking about it because last year we were in a similar situation. The public didn't know about that. We were in a fuel crisis at that time, and the GNWT did step in at that time, but it wasn't this loud. Not at all. I don't even think the public knew about that, but the industry and the GNWT were able to come together at that time. So right now, I just feed off of where is their response? And if there is a subsidy coming out, then why didn't we hear about it before? Why aren't we just hearing about it today? And if this meeting had already been conducted, then it would at least give us some kind of hope, some kind of understanding that we are actually being heard. So one of the things that I would like to, if I'm elected as mayor, is communication is really, is something that I would really like to improve. If I'm traveling out to Ottawa, if I'm traveling out to Yellowknife, going to Kikiza, whatever, the residents of the community needs to know what it is that we're doing and what it is that we are working towards. And if there's partnership in the future, then this is what is going on. And I think it's really important, but the other thing I really want to weigh heavy on is if I'm elected, I want to question the GNWT. I'm dying to know.
30 seconds.
Did you use our fuel to respond to the emergency fires? When those planes were fighting the fires, did they take our fuel out of the community? because I'm shocked that that fuel did not last us for the year. It was a delivery on the winter road, and also for the groceries as well too. And if that is the fact, then I think, give us back our subsidy, please.
10 seconds.
You know, give us back what you took. It's all good. Don't worry about it. Just give us back what we gave and how we responded to your emergency. We helped you at that time. Please give us our funding back. Masi.
So the one thing that I can say about this crisis that we need to push for is the winter road. When we had the oil companies all here doing development, our winter road started in the middle of January, and I can remember sending my last truck out of here when I ran Matco on April 4. We built winter roads back then. Now we scrape them to the muskeg, and as soon as the sun comes out, it's done. The government needs to step in, and we need to rebuild our winter roads. The proper way to build a winter road is to plow the snow into the middle, not off the sides. Ice it, grade it, and you'll get months out of it. We need to have our winter road this year particularly going in January, not the middle of February. That will relieve a lot of the costs because we'll be able to get the trucks in and get the tanks filled. So that's the biggest thing in my mind right now, is let's get our road built as quick as possible. If you build it correctly, you put water on it, you make it work, at least they might be able to start bringing up smaller trucks, but at least we'll get fuel that isn't flown. And that's the closest thing I can say to help us get through this fuel crisis, because I don't know anybody that can afford $5,000 and $6,000 tanks of oil. I don't know anybody.
30 seconds.
So that's where one place where I want to advocate is to get our road constructed as fast as is humanly possible. Thank you.
That question is so hard to answer. I think everybody along here has touched on some things to try to help each other. I think we as a community have got to come together, support each other, support our neighbors, ask for help. If you need help, don't let it get into a position where you can't get out of. And I'm not talking about just financial help, I'm talking about mental health. I think we're all looking at a crisis that's going to cause a lot of mental health issues, and we got to make sure nobody falls down those rabbit holes. So I can advocate, make sure our voices are being heard. As somebody who is intimately aware of what everybody pays for their particular house in town, I know people struggle. I know people will continue to struggle, and we just need to make sure that we communicate and be part of a town, have that community, have people support each other. It is going to be hard, but we need to be one community. Thanks.
Anyone else from the public?
I always say I'm so short. Thank you for being here. I think it's so important that this forum is occurring because we have to work as a community, because all we're listening to right now is the high cost of living. But what I have not heard tonight was our youth and the suffering of the drugs and alcohol in our community. It was almost about a year ago in December, we called a meeting, an emergency meeting, because of the drug use in Norman Wells. There was a plan in place. We had a lot of concerns because our own people were killing each other with these illicit drugs. So I haven't heard anything about this plan tonight. I haven't heard anything about our youth in Norman Wells. All I'm hearing about is Imperial Oil. I get that. But our youth are the ones that are watching us as leaders. So what is the plan in place to protect our youth from the drugs in this community? What are you guys planning to do for the next 1 month, 1 year, 2 and 3? It's not about the federal government. It's not about the Indigenous governments. It's about the young people here in Norman Wells. I understand we're going through hard times, but I've been in Norman Wells since forever. We used to have the newspapers, we used to have gatherings. What I see now is groups. Everybody's bashing everybody. So as a town, community, mayor, and council, how do we break that? We talked about interagency. Like, you're sitting there because you have a reason to be there, because you feel that you need to make a difference in our community. Let's start making differences. Let's stop bashing each other. Let's stop, like, we could never stop the drugs. But how could we at least make a difference in Norman Wells to help our own people? Like, what's the plan for that? In December, we talked about having canines coming in. I understand, I give kudos to the RCMP and all the people that are stopping those drugs that have been coming in the last little while. Amazing job. But we have to be vocal as a community, and especially the council. We need to have more communication. So I want to see plans like that. I want to see things happening for the people of Norman Wells. Let the politicians take care, or the mayor take care of Imperial Oil. Imperial Oil's been around for 100 years. Yeah, I get that. But they just chew us up and they spit us out. Look at all the people in the last 100 years that worked for Imperial Oil. They never got recognition. Majority of them end up dying from cancer. And the ones that do retire, they get chewed up and spit out again. You know, and now we are the ones that are now going to have to face $4 for fuel and for gas and electricity, the cost of living. So we do have organizations. We have the Jordan's Principle, but unfortunately, Town of Norman Wells, again, is the only place that does not have an office, which I'm trying to work on. There's different entities that the town can start doing research as a council, start pulling it together. We did it through the COVID, right? We all pulled together to work together. We got through that fire evacuation, 21 days with Fort Good Hope.
We have 10 minutes left, so.
Sure,
Yep.
sorry. But what are we going to do for the youth of our community? What is the plan for Norman Wells? What about the recreation? The hockey doesn't have a leadership going. So we're stuck with just the little things that's going on in our community. Let's try to focus on that as well. And hopefully the politicians can take care of us up there. Thank you.
Polly, would you like to start?
Thank you so much, Loretta, for this question. I was dying for somebody to ask this and really bring it home, really bring it back to the people. We've had a number of incidents that we're all familiar with throughout the community. And then just one that was really recent as well, too, is I really commented on social media about missing and murdered Indigenous women and how women are treated, and are we treated fairly? And the incidents that do happen within the community as well, are they being reported? But then once they are, what are we doing about it? And I think the other thing that really comes at the top of my head with those comments is domestic violence as well. We don't have a domestic violence home. We don't have a foster care home. A lot of our children are leaving the community. They're leaving their families, and we're causing more trauma for them. But then also looking, and I hear you when you talk about interagency groups, they're like nice big political words and the meetings and the workshops and whatever, but I want to see action now. What are we going to be doing about it? And one of the things I'm just really happy about is, you know, we have a lot of talk about the daycare, and the daycare is starting to roll. But then for the youth, we're losing them every single day. Every single day they are being distracted. There is drugs in our community. We see it being posted on Facebook all the time. And I think we need to start getting serious about that, because that's a crisis of its own.
10 seconds.
And majority of the people and the youth that are being affected are Indigenous in our community, and this is where partnership is so crucial. I know that SSI had just completed a wellness, a youth program or whatever. I want to see the results from that. Also for Jordan's Principle, Sato-Dena Council does have a position open for it, and that position could be stationed anywhere. So something at least going forward, we need to work in partnership. Masi.
Thank you for the question, Loretta. I don't have a concrete answer to your question or your series of comments, which I appreciate very much, and I take them to heart. I think we do quite a bit for the youth through some of our programs. Maybe we don't do enough. If that's what you're saying, I'm hearing it. Where I'd like to come from is, if you have ideas, suggestions, ways we can do better with programming for youth, come to us. Give us ideas we may not even think about.
30
I
seconds.
know Linda came to us with her ideas on helping out with the children's hand game tournament. We were able to jump right in and help all we could. Come to us with these kinds of ideas, and we're there for you. A lot of us are sitting here, as you said, we're politicians, but we don't think far enough outside the box some of the times.
10 seconds.
Maybe we've been a little lax on that. When it comes to the drug situation, yes, we've got to do an awful lot more. I think we've come a long way, though, in the last few months. I see the RCMP are actually having success over the last period of time, which is good to see. But we have got to continue to support them. We've got to be able to tell them what they need to know to do their job better. And we're even having a situation right now with the RCMP where we may be down to only 2 officers this winter for Christmas and the winter road season.
Last thoughts.
I'm in a battle with them right now to make sure we have at least 3 officers over that period of time. So they're having a hard time, we're having a hard time. The community has to pull together, as you said, Loretta. Let's do it as a community. Let's work with the police. Let's work with the youth. And damn it, tell us what you suggest, and we'll work with you to do that as well. Thank you.
Would any councillors like to comment?
Basically, the town needs to work with the school and with the parents, because that's the 3 groups that are going to make things better for our youth. We can't drag them in kicking and screaming, but we have to have the parents and we have to have the schools encouraging these other activities. I worked with cadets here when I first came to town. I have a long history with cadets. And just trying to get kids who are interested to come out, rather than play on a video game or be on a computer. We have the facilities, we have the desire, we just need to get the 3 main groups to buy in. And that starts with the parent, and it also includes the school, and ultimately the town will support in any way we can. Thank you.
It's hard to get the youth wanting to do some stuff on their own without getting pushed by their parents to go out, or the school to go out, or their friends to pull them to go do things. We have quite a few organizations that do try to involve youth. Softball this year has, changed their age group to allow younger players. Volleyball has always allowed 12 and the 12 to 15 try to come up. They used to have a youth day, and try to get youth out playing sports. Minor hockey this year is gonna have a little bit of a hard time, but a lot of it's volunteers. The town only has so much capacity with their paid employees to put on things. I think they're doing a pretty good job on, variety of different things, because everybody has different interests. But I think volunteers, we need more people stepping up and saying, I have an idea, these people agree with me, let's do it. Can we get some support from the town to do it? And I think that is, going forward, something that needs to be done. Thanks.
I want to thank everybody. I want to thank the judges. It would be an honor to serve this town again. As I said, I've been there, I've done that. I really do want to help. I care about this town, I care about the people. I'm going to put a bit of propaganda up on the side there. Feel free to take one when you go. And please, feel free to reach out. I mean, around town, in the grocery stores, if you want to talk, just let me know. I'm always interested in parenting with you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. It's quite, and I want to thank the candidates too, because it's quite the approach to put your name forward, to be sitting here, to be wanting to represent your community, and to be taking a lot of the information coming forward and to actually collaborate and work that into what it is that you want to be successful at in a term sitting in these seats. And also, thank you to the people that have come out as well too. But right now, we are in a crisis. Right now, times are different. I feel like this is COVID once again, but just at a different area now. You know, we've done the climate change, we've done the health thing, and then now we're looking at cost of living. And it's just emergency after emergency, and are we prepared for it? But not only that, we actually have an emergency amongst our youth and amongst our people. The addiction and the drugs and the alcohol is also a factor as well. Sitting in the seat and going forward is that I want to bring a lot of that advocacy coming forward, but I want to see results. I want to see that daycare built. I need it up and running. We need to have happy children. We need them to go somewhere and get educated. And we also need to see, I want to see homelessness. I want to see a home for domestic violence. And also, I need a response now in regards to our fuel. Imperial, GNWT, send us a letter, say something, so we actually don't go on uncertainty, because right now we're thinking we're going to have $5,000 fuel bills, which I really think is not going to happen, but I wish somebody would actually respond. And it's nice to be going out to Ottawa, advocating and whatever, but like one of the members had said is, I need to know today. You know, am I going to be paying this $5,000 next month? And it's just a really uncertain time right now. Masi.
Thank you. Thank you all for coming out tonight. It's a pleasure to have the opportunity to talk to you and give you some of our thoughts and ideas and to hear what you think about it. We are in a crisis situation. Whether we're at a point in this to call an actual state of emergency, I'm not sure, but I'll work with my colleagues to make that decision very soon. I am not convinced that we're at the end of the road yet. I still have faith in you as people. I have faith in ourselves as politicians, local, territorial-wide, and federally, that we can make this work some way. It may take an awful lot of hard grift and graft to achieve that, but I'm standing here before you dedicating myself to this community for as long as I have left on this God's good green earth. I'm here for you. I have the time. I have the dedication. I have a lot of experience through the media, through government. I have the contacts that I can work with. I agree that we've got to do more for our youth. We've got to combat the drug situation in our community, and I'm willing to work hard with everybody to do that. I know that a lot of times during election campaigns, some things are said which maybe are hurtful.
30 seconds.
And I just want to say right now that I was accused by a candidate for this election who is not here this evening of being racist. I will not take that from anyone. I do not have a racist bone in my body. And I just wish that person was here to face me one-on-one and hear what I got to say. This was hurtful to my family, my wife, to you as residents who are friends. I know that in the heat of an election campaign, things are said. But to call somebody a racist is just not tolerable where I come from. Thank you.
I'd like to thank everybody that came out tonight. I appreciate everybody that showed up that's running for coming out and answering questions. It's not after, this is my third time doing this, and it's not never easy, even after doing 6 years on council. And the questions. I wish there was better answers at this time for a couple of the questions. We are sitting in a world of uncertainty at this moment. I promise to work hard, be dedicated, be there if you want to speak, and I hope that I get reelected. Thank you.
Thank you so much to the candidates who came out. As a voter, to me, it is indicative of the candidates who are serious about what they're doing to show up tonight. I understand Trevor is sick. If you'd like to get to know the candidates more, I have extended an offer to all of them to come on my podcast. You can find it on YouTube. It's Breaking Ice, and I intend to sit down with them for an hour and discuss things further. My goal is to have those out before election, before the 21st. I'm not going to make the 9th. Right now it seems like I'm not going to get everyone by their own choice, but as many as I can, I want to give you guys that opportunity to hear from them in more thorough detail. Thank you so much for coming. And yeah, when in doubt, aim higher and stick together and keep each other going.